the first innovation, the first initiative that Verizon launched was to support Black and Latinx founders of technology startups. So our pilots began this year with 2 programs, TechRise in Chicago in partnership with P33 and 1871, and another program in Houston in partnership with Div Inc. And through these programs, we're providing non-dilutive funding, accelerator programming, and technology coaching and expertise to early stage underrepresented founders. This probably to most people on the call, the challenges are quite real. In Chicago currently, only 1.9% of venture capital goes to Black and Latinx founders. So TechRise was developed to create an inclusive tech ecosystem, including pitch competitions, an online community of resources hosted by P33, all the way to training, mentorship, tailored education, and support programming delivered by 1871. And these are our 2 pilot programs nationally, but we're excited. Verizon's going to be expanding our support of diverse founders into new cities in the years to come. So there'll be more information on that as we expand. And the second pathway is our Forward for Good Accelerator. And some of you might have heard about this through the startup support organizations that we partner with across the state. This is a cohort-based program implemented in partnership with ALLY to help scale technology solutions that leverage leading edge technologies like 5G, MEC, AI, XR, all to drive social impact. So we pair startups with industry experts and technology leaders and representatives from the communities they aim to serve. And this accelerator launched in April with a focus on climate justice, and we're going to be focusing on different areas over time. The next application period with a different social impact focus to be named will begin in September, and myself and my colleague Krista Bison will be sharing that information with our partners and stakeholders across Ohio. And all these initiatives and more are part of Citizen Verizon, which is our responsible business plan for economic, environmental, and social advancement, to which Verizon as a company has committed $3 billion through 2025. And for more information on that, you can check out the website at citizenverizon.com. Okay. So enough of that intro on all the good that we do on our corporate social responsibility slide. I want to introduce my 3 wonderful colleagues coming to you from literally across the country, so all different time zones. First, we have Josh Ness. Josh is a senior manager at Verizon 5G Labs in New York City. He partners with enterprise, startups, and academic teams to drive innovation around 5G and co-create 5G concepts. He also works to educate, inspire, and connect the dots for businesses interested in moving forward with emerging technology. He's also a pretty funny guy, so I'm excited to hear his part of today's program. Next is Tiffany Williams. Tiffany, Supplier Inclusion and Diversity Manager on Verizon's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion team. She is responsible for identifying, developing relationships with, and building the capacity of diverse suppliers who could potentially partner with Verizon. And Tiffany helps diverse suppliers effectively navigate the Verizon landscape. And I'll just take a 30-second point here to let all of you on the call know that the supplier for all of Verizon's employee t-shirts, for our employee resource groups, et cetera, is a Black woman-owned business in Chardon, Ohio, and some supplier that came through our diversity supplier pipeline. So Tiffany, great job picking an Ohio-based company for us. And last but not least, Terry Evans Jr., principal at Verizon Ventures. He's been there since 2019 with more than 8 years of experience in business development, strategic planning, M&A, and divestitures. Before Verizon Ventures, he was a core member of a high-impact corporate development team for the commercial division of United Technologies, where he led all aspects of M&A execution. He worked in business developments in 2 financial service firms. He holds an MBA in finance from the University of Pittsburgh, a master's, another bachelor's. He's got a lot of degrees, and he's holding up our West Coast team in Palo Alto, California with our Verizon Ventures group. So Chris, thanks so much. I can remove myself from the spotlight and leave the spotlight on my 3 colleagues. And I think we're turning it over to Terry first.
Well, thank you, Jessica. And again, thank you for all your help in putting this together and bringing people from New York and Washington, D.C. and Silicon Valley to Ohio with us virtually for the day. As Jessica mentioned, we'll dive into allowing Terry, Tiffany, and Joshua an opportunity to share kind of the insights from their work and the different respective parts of Verizon they work in. Before we begin, I'll say that we're hoping that this is interactive. We'll be leaving some time for Q&A towards the end and kind of really interacting and asking questions. So hopefully, anything you come across, write it down, and we'll absolutely save time for it. When we get to that point, feel free to, raise your virtual Zoom hand, put it in the chat, send it as a direct message to me if maybe you don't, want to ask or aren't in a position to in a working facility or something like that. But as we begin now, I'll kick it over to you, Terry, and allow you to share your work and specifically Verizon Ventures. And Tiffany and Joshua, I'll take you off spotlight for this moment as we give Terry the stage, and then we'll bring you all back up when the time is right. But Terry, thanks so much for being here with us today.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for the stage here, an opportunity to talk to everyone. I first and foremost just want to welcome everyone and good morning. I guess anyone on the West Coast, but I assume everyone is primarily on the East Coast, so good afternoon. I am from the Northeast, from Pittsburgh. I know there's a little rivalry between Pittsburgh and Ohio, but I will say half of my family is from Mansfield, Ohio, so I do have that relation there. So I think as far as today, I'm going to talk a little bit about me, but Jessica did a really good job, so I'll kind of keep that short. I'll talk about why Verizon Ventures exists, some of our portfolio statistics, and really what we look for when we're looking for startups. So, and I know I have, 20 minutes. There's a lot of information, so I don't want to bore you guys to death. So I'm going to try to summarize a lot of this stuff and really keep a lot more time at the end to answer questions. I feel as though that's where, when I do these types of these talks, I think a lot of the good information comes actually from the Q&A section. So like Jessica mentioned, I'm a principal with Verizon Ventures, and I'm responsible for the entire end-to-end venture process. So that's deal sourcing to business case development, due diligence, and portfolio support. Prior to Verizon Ventures, I was working for a Fortune 50 company leading all M&A aspects for execution. And prior to that, I was actually in financial services and wealth management. And as far as background as education, it's mostly primarily finance and accounting background, bachelor's in finance, MBA, and a master's of accounting, which is all very relevant when it comes to the ventures process. So the first thing that I like to talk about is really just the 4 stages of innovation for Verizon. I know many people always heard about build, buy, and partner, but there's also another leg, which is the investment, and that's where Verizon Ventures come into play. There are many different reasons for any of the build, buy, or partner or investment opportunities, and I think for us, it's a little bit more complicated when we're thinking about partnering versus investing. I think those are the ones that are kind of closely related. And I like to think of the difference between partnering and investing is just thinking about the time to market. Do we need something right now, or is this investment for something for the next 2, 3 to 5 years? Are we looking for a high level of market intelligence, like deep insights where you can only get with maybe a board seat? And are we looking for maybe a deeper integration or customization with the company? If the answer to that is kind of yes, and longer term, then it's more probably an investment for us in the venture side. And thinking about like, why do corporate venture arms exist? And I think different corporates have many different mandates, but I would say for Verizon Ventures, it's really just to develop ecosystems strategic to Verizon, drive commercial opportunities in early M&A access. We're also thinking about bringing access to emerging technologies and market intelligence that's aligned with our strategy. So I know many people think about just the ventures part for corporate is really kind of looking around the corner for the business and market intelligence to see, is this an area that we should we acquire a large company in the space? We can invest maybe $1 million or $2 million to really understand the space, and before actually shelling out $500 million to actually acquire a line of business. And I think, many people ask, so why should I work with Verizon Ventures versus a financial VC? And I don't think they're mutually exclusive. We actually tend to invest very closely with many other financial VCs. But when you're working with a strategic venture capital, I think one of the things that we provide outside of just the capital is business and operational support. Once we have a portfolio company, we give you access to some of our experts within Verizon. We have many experts across consumer, network, enterprise, and media. I think the other reason is just that we provide strategic connections where it makes sense. When you think about distribution, Verizon might be one of the largest distributors that you could think of, consumer distributors that you can think of. So we'll make introductions to some of our customers or maybe even some of our partners wherever it makes sense. And I think the other piece is just the brand recognition. Many times with our portfolio companies, we try to highlight them on our social media, if it's LinkedIn, if it's Twitter, if it's on our own personal Verizon Ventures website. And we also just try to co-market together as well. So we'll kind of introduce you to our marketing team, and maybe we just send out a new, like announcing a big co-development between small startup and big Verizon. So some stats or facts about our portfolio and how we invest is that we're primarily 5G focused. So when you're thinking about that, always think in the back of your mind, like, is this relevant to 5G? Now, we don't just invest in just 5G technology, but think about the use cases that will be enabled with 5G. That's our primary mandate, but there are many others, which I'll kind of talk about shortly. We consider ourselves early stage investors, so that's seed or Series A, primarily software versus hardware companies. Our average check size is between 1 and 5. Let's see, about 20%, actually it might be a little bit higher, but at least 20% of our portfolio companies have some type of commercial agreement. The ones that don't have commercial agreements are usually the longer term types of companies, being that we're looking to invest in technology that might be utilized in the next 3 to 5 years. There's no commercial opportunity at that point. As far as our team size and location, we have a team in Israel. We have a team in New York and New Jersey, and we have a team in Silicon Valley where I'm based. And we don't have a specific fund of, let's say, $50 million. We primarily invest off of the balance sheet. So for our investment heat map, we're kind of looking at how close to the core is this company, and is it strategic or opportunistic? So of course, if the company is core and is strategic or opportunistic, then it's an opportunity for us to explore that with the company, as far as if it's a venture investment or a close partnership. If it's not so close to the core but is strategic, I think that's an opportunity for us, the longer range investment for market intelligence and maybe insights into a new industry or product that we might be looking to launch in the future. But if it's non-core and it's loose, it's probably or not strategic, then it's probably not a good investment for us at that time. So I'm sure one of your questions is just, where do we invest? What are we looking for outside of 5G, or just a little bit more specifically? So I'm responsible for Verizon Consumer, and some of the things that we're looking for is things in smart home, immersive technology, so AR, VR. We've done a lot of things in actually sports technology. We've invested in like fan control football league, YBVR. We've invested in like streaming technology as well, being that the huge shift to OTT. So thinking about being able to see things that have only a 1 second latency versus 45 second to 60 second broadcast latency, which opens up things like real-time sports betting. In the business side, we're looking at enterprise software, primarily infrastructure-based, robotics, drones, anything involving, I think a lot of the use cases we're looking at now is in computer vision as well. So if you're thinking about just 5G or mobile edge computing, computer vision is critical as a critical use case. Critical, I think, immediate use case, I'll say that. And then on our network side, a lot of things we're looking for is just anything that can enhance our core network, or any use cases that it can enable as well. So we're looking at consumer, business, and network. And although we kind of divested part of media, we are still looking at the media space as well. So I have a list of things that I look for when I'm looking at a company. This is probably different from other investors on the team, but I don't think it's too different from many other investors of what they're looking for. So when I see a startup, the first thing I'm thinking about or looking at is just the problem. What problem are they solving? What's the value proposition? Is it a big problem, or is it a small problem? Is it something that's repeatable, or is this something that you buy once and you're not buying it again for another couple of years? So just really, how big is the problem? Second, I look at is the team. That's critical, especially in early stage investing. Not so much about what school someone went to or anything like that, but I'm just looking at, is this team capable of delivering the vision of the company? That could be just from experience. Do you have significant experience and expertise in the field? If you don't, does your co-founders have that experience? The other part, I look at the product or service. Is there any type of moat that you have? Is there any IP around it? As far as the business model, I'm thinking about, is this business model, especially software companies, is it scalable, or is this something that requires a lot of human resources or a lot of capital to be able to scale? Of course, the least amount of resources needed, the more scalable the business is, and I think the more attractive the company looks from an investment standpoint. Market attractiveness is important, which is how big is the market? Is it growing fast? How large is the market? Traction. I'm looking at the customers. Do you have any big name customers? If you don't have any big name customers, I want to talk to the customers to understand what they love about the product. I'll look at the retention. Are you able to retain your customers? If you're not, why are people leaving your service or product? And lastly is kind of the financials and just the valuation of the business. It's not a big area of focus, but of course, if you're a pre-revenue company and you're asking for $300 million, that's probably not something we're probably going to look at. I know there are many companies out there now that are actually getting funded like that, but for us, we're not really attracted to those types of companies. And lastly, I'll just talk about how to work with ventures. And unfortunately, I guess there's no like secret sauce. There's no secret entry into working with the ventures team. I would say the things that you should be thinking about is focus on solving a problem that's just relevant to Verizon. I think if you just think about connectivity, does your product or service rely heavily on like the connectivity space? Could your product be enhanced by 5G? Is it like a really strong 5G use case? Or could your product or service enhance our product offering? So I think if you think of those types of things, I think that will pique interest within Verizon. And I think there are a few different entry points. I think one is when you're earlier stage, I think 5G Labs is an amazing place, and we source a lot of deals from 5G Labs, where Josh will give you some information about 5G Labs. I think there's also, you could just work directly with the business units. I mean, we have many business units within Verizon, and they're always looking for innovative companies to work with. So they'll directly reach out to companies that are innovating in a space of interest. And we source a lot of companies from our business units as well. And lastly, I would say you can reach out to anyone on the Verizon Ventures team. And we're open to having a conversation. Many of us you can find us on LinkedIn. I will say is that I know I get a lot of LinkedIn messages. So I'm sure a lot of our team members get a lot of LinkedIn messages. So I think it's important to just summarize basically the strategic fit that you see within Verizon. Of course, a company summary as well, and just kind of differentiation of like your company versus others, any other materials that you can, if you have a short investor deck or a one pager, like all those things, if you can send that at once, I think you're going to increase your success of like one of us responding. It's, you know, I wish I could say I respond to everyone, but it's just so many that it just has to be like clear and concise. It's like, oh, okay, I see the benefit here. I see what they're solving and how that could be a good use for us here at Verizon. Let me reach out to that person and set up the call. And that's it. Again, there's just no secret, but just focus on trying to solve a problem for Verizon. And I'm sure there's some entry point that would get you either a partnership or investment with Verizon.
Great. Well, thank you, Terry, so much for that. And really appreciate the overview. I saw a couple of comments. Dana and maybe a couple others had some questions for Chad. I think for sake of time, maybe if we'll save some of those towards the end and have a general Q&A. And next up, we'll go and Terry, I'll remove you from a spotlight in a moment. But next up, Tiffany, if it's all right to head to you and hear what you do as a Supplier Inclusion and Diversity Manager on Verizon's DE&I team. And as Jessica gave the overview, you're working with at least one Ohio company, which is awesome. So Tiffany, I'll turn it over to you, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you. I know we've been in like this Zoom world or this virtual world for a long time. And people say, well, don't apologize. Don't apologize. I'm not apologizing, but I will warn you all. I do have a house full, and sometimes the people around here, usually my 14-year-old and my little dog, they get into a fisticuff from time to time, and they let the fisticuff start right outside of my office. We have a lot of space for them to wrestle with one another, but they like to do it right at my office door. So nobody is being hurt, the dog nor the child, so please don't be alarmed, but you have been warned. So hello, everybody. I am Tiffany Williams, and I am that fancy name that they introduced me as. Most of you, if not all of you, may know it as Supplier Diversity. So I specialize in supplier diversity here at Verizon. I've been in this field probably for, well, it's been over 10 years at this point. But one thing that's unique about Verizon is that that's different from other companies is that the Supplier Diversity Program is a part of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion team, whereas other companies, Supplier Diversity is a part of procurement. Depending on who you are, what you believe, you may think one is better than the other, but I personally think that the fact I like the supply diversity being a part of the diversity, equity, and inclusion team, because you kind of get to pull the thread through everything that you do around diversity and how the work that we do in the community, how it connects with our employees, how it connects with our suppliers, and just everybody that Verizon looks to serve. So enough about that. I'll tell you a little bit about what supplier diversity means at Verizon. I apologize in advance if this is old hat to some of you all. So please just bear with me. So supplier diversity has been a part of the fabric of Verizon since its inception. We have a very robust, very strong supplier diversity program. We do a lot of best sharing where we are helping bring other companies, our industry partners, along with regards to their supply diversity, and vice versa. We take a lot of suggestions because we're always looking for ways to kind of reinvent ourselves. Verizon is a founding member of the $1 Billion Roundtable, which is an organization made up of about 26 or 27 companies that spend over $1 billion with diverse suppliers a year, and that's direct spend. So, like by direct, I mean Verizon cuts a check to diverse suppliers. And how we identify or define diverse suppliers at Verizon, and it's similar to other companies. And when some companies they define it, they use the same category, count the same categories, and some don't. But more and more companies are including all of the many diverse categories. And at Verizon, people of color, women, veterans, persons with disabilities, and members of the LGBT community. And those companies have to be certified by a third party certifying organization, and at least 51% owned, operated, and controlled by the person who is classified as diverse. And where we go to kind of be in the midst of all of these certified diverse suppliers, Verizon has many partnerships with organizations like the National Minority Supplier Development Council, the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce, the Women's Business Enterprise Networking Council, and many others that cover all of our diverse categories. We also partner with we accept state and local certifications. So like you all are in Ohio and like New York and Maryland and DC, lots of states and cities have their own like certification process that suppliers opt to be certified through instead of going through some of these other certifying bodies that I just mentioned. And so that's how we define that's how we define diverse supplier. And I'll just tell you a little bit about like some of the things that why we do the things that we do, and what are some of the things that we do. And so Terry like kind of stole a little bit of my thunder, because a lot of the things that he does in his organization, or the way that he thinks about that, when to engage from a venture standpoint, is very similar to how we kind of go about and process engaging with diverse suppliers. We look for diverse suppliers who are financially sound. They have the ability to scale. They have the ability to, they offer something that Verizon, something of value to Verizon, something that we need, something that we could use, something that helps supports our business. And then we are, able to go into a mutually beneficial relationship. And so, I don't want that to sound crazy, like, oh, we just come out here and like using everybody up, but it just has to make business sense. And as business owners, if your core business is selling straws, then you might not want to buy like, shoe shine, or partner with a company that sells shoe shine. So that's kind of how I think about it. So we do look for companies that are compatible and align with the work that we're doing and that our technology needs, and things of that nature. And so a couple of ways that we work with suppliers, we either buy something from them, they have something and we like, yes, we want it, because we know that diverse suppliers are very innovative. We know that they're very nimble. Their organizations tend to have a lot less bureaucracy and red tape to kind of get things done and get things done quickly. And so that's one of the main reasons, like that is probably the biggest business case that most corporations kind of lean into when deciding to work with diverse suppliers, because we really do need you all in order to stay on the cutting edge of like what's going on. And so, we don't need we don't need everybody, because that's why sometimes it's kind of hard to get with this, but we can't stay competitive and we can't continue to be Verizon without the support of diverse suppliers, without those partnerships. And then another reason why we need diverse suppliers is that we go to market. Sometimes you all are in spaces that Verizon just can't get into the door. And believe it or not, like there are some, government, when you think of like government agencies, there's certain diverse suppliers who they know the ins and outs of these agencies, state and local agencies, government agencies, clients. They know everything about this client. They're very well connected. And Verizon, we don't have a relationship, or the diverse supplier has something that Verizon, that like a gap, that's a gap for Verizon. And so we go to market together and we perform services and we work in collaboration to support various clients. And then of course, we're always looking for it to be a win-win situation. Everybody, both companies, we want to get the benefit from it. And so those are some, that's kind of some of the reasons why. And then the last reason I'll talk about is just the overall economic impact. Many people who have heard me talk, or, anytime I talk about anything related to D&I, I strongly believe like good thing to do, right thing to do, this makes sense. But it really does from an economic standpoint. We did 2 years ago, Verizon did an economic impact study that showed like it, I guess it like created the roadmap. It took us from a point of like, hey, you spent, $5 billion with diverse suppliers in this particular year. What was the overall economic impact in the different states and cities that resulted as a result of this? And it was pretty significant. The study clearly identified amount of jobs that were created, the just like taxes that was paid back to the government, the state and local governments, based on the spend that we have. People were, they opened up new buildings and all types of stuff. And it really shows a very significant impact for the work that we do when we invest in these various communities, because we also know that when you engage with diverse suppliers, they tend to hire other diverse people, and it just brings value to the various communities, whether it's health and wealth accumulation, like I said, new business growth, and well as jobs in diverse communities, or just any community. So when we do these types of things, it's very, it has a tremendous ripple effect or a tremendous impact. So that's kind of like my little spiel about, why we do it, why it's important, why it makes sense for our business. A couple of programs that we offer, or ways in which we kind of connect with diverse suppliers so they can, hopefully meet us one day and we meet them, and and try to see if there's opportunities. So I do things like this. I come to events and I try to be where the people are, go and find the diverse suppliers, always trying to find like the hotness, what's out there. I go to the various conferences of those third-party certifying organizations that I mentioned. From time to time, Verizon, the supplier diversity team, we will hold information sessions where we would invite diverse suppliers in to kind of meet some of our stakeholders. I typically meet with suppliers very frequently. I meet with suppliers every Friday, and I just block off several hours on Friday. And I just kind of schedule a series of 30-minute meetings just to kind of get introductions, and then maybe do an assessment as to whether or not there's a potential opportunity. We should continue to have a conversation, because my role, as a supplier diversity manager, I don't have like the opportunities, but what I do try to kind of do an assessment of the company. Is this something that Verizon would be interested in? And then I like what you all do to me is like, listen, I'm going to sell you my company and my amazing services. Then I go into the business and I do that same thing to the folks in the business. I'm like, hey, I got this amazing diverse supplier. All they need an opportunity. They need to talk to somebody. And I try to help you navigate your own relationship roadmap, help you develop it and navigate it within Verizon, so that you can eventually get to the right person, because as entrepreneurs, I know you all are aware, it's right time, right place, and just connections, networking. And so I try to help you navigate that landscape in Verizon, because it's kind of hard. Big companies, I'm sure you all are aware, they're hard to navigate. Everybody's busy. People got gatekeepers. It's annoying. I get it, because I get gatekeep or gate kept, or I don't even know, I may have just made up a word, but I get it myself, where people are like, oh, here she comes again. But you be persistent, and eventually something happens. There's one other thing else I wanted to share. Oh, and one of the things that we have done at Verizon is have a diverse supplier mentoring program. We recently launched it a couple of years ago. It's a 12-month program. And we didn't do it this year because of COVID, and just we wrapped our last program up during COVID. And then this year we did not do it because it was just a lot going on, but we do anticipate relaunching next year. And it started as a 12-month program where we would invite diverse suppliers in, and they would get mentors by an VP or senior VP or senior VP. And we would send them, sponsor them to some external education through those partnerships that I mentioned, through National Minority Supplier Development Council and such. They have partnerships with organizations like the Tuck School of Business or Kellogg School of Business. And so we would sponsor them to go there. We would invite them to Verizon, the mentees to Verizon to meet with their mentors, and also build out a curriculum based on the stated need of the suppliers. And so in the first couple of cohorts, they were current suppliers of Verizon. But moving forward, looking to the future, we're looking to open it up to people who are not doing business with Verizon. There are a couple of qualifications, have to be in business for a certain amount of years, have to be financially sound, have to be in the area of growth for Verizon, like your capabilities, and certified. And a certified diverse supplier. So whether it's state or local or through one of the organizations, being certified through one of the organizations makes life a lot easier for us, because then we can easily sponsor the supplier for one of those programs like the Kellogg or Tuck School of Business that I mentioned, because those programs are reserved for those particular constituents. So that's that is a really good program that has been very successful. And so I'm trying to think. I think that's all. I don't know if anybody has any questions. Oh, I think you said we were going to hold the questions, but I'm trying to stay within my time. I'll put my email in the chat. And if you haven't already found me on LinkedIn, I'll throw that in there as well. I'm pretty good about connecting on LinkedIn. That don't make us best friends or anything, but I will try to connect. But I'll give you my email address. And if there's a desire to, talk more with me and learn more about what we do in this space, I'm happy to schedule one of those Friday 30-minute meetings with you and see where it goes.
Well, thank you so much, Tiffany. That was terrific. And we will save, and I see Don with his hand up, we'll save some of the questions at the end, and happy to get to them there. We want to make sure we get to Joshua, who will share from his perspective at Verizon. And then the other thing, just while I have it or remember it, Jessica, maybe we can chat about collecting any resources, links or opportunities from all the different kind of verticals at Verizon, and we can send it to folks as a follow-up after the fact. So it's kind of all in one place. But Joshua, thank you so much. I'll turn it over to you, and really appreciate you sharing your aspect of Verizon with us.
Hey everyone, how's it going? I like this already because it's a very active chat, and hopefully we keep that going. This is an interactive quick 10 minutes so we can make sure that we leave time for questions. I prepared slides, which is really, really saying something because I hate slides. I am so bad at them. I could never work for a consulting firm because I am absolute rubbish at slides. But this is what we got. I made slides so we can talk through some of these things. I would like to. I'm trying to figure out where the heck the chat went. Keep talking in the chat there because I'm going to ask you a couple of questions and see if I can get y'all's feedback on some things. So real quickly, what the heck is 5G? That's something that that Cherry talked about, and we've had some conversations about it. Real quick, 5G, the G stands for generation. That's one thing that Verizon has really doubled down on. A lot of the other carriers have as well, amidst some other work that they're doing, but we are saying 5G is the future, and so we want to really explore all the ways that 5G and specifically advanced connectivity are going to impact the evolution of technology and the way that we interact with our customers and the way that you interact with your customers. So it started right there in 1G with that Zach Morris phone. If anybody knows why it's called a Zach Morris phone, please put that in the chat. I'd like to know that I'm not alone in this generational gap. And then we moved on through, the Motorola Razr, the BlackBerry. That if you had a BlackBerry, go ahead and put that in there as well. I miss my BlackBerry like nobody's business. There you go, Jessica got it. It was Saved by the Bell. It was one of the best shows on TV back in the day. The holster, the holster for the BlackBerry. And we're moving on into this new phase of 5G development, which is going to mirror in a lot of ways the development of into 4G, which resulted in evolutions of not only connectivity, but also hardware, and then as a result, software, which now is eating the world, if you believe Mark Andreessen. And so we know that 4G ushered in this tectonic shift in the way that we think about software and the way that we think about technology. It gave us things like Netflix, and it gave us things like ride sharing, and it gave us things like the gig economy, right? It invented entire economies. Millions of people lived their lives based on their ability to have seamless and reliable connectivity, which is something that 4G brought with it, right? We know 5G is here, and it's going to create it's going to lay the groundwork for similar kinds of shifts. And we know that 5G is already starting to do it because it's already here. We started in 2017. Verizon, this is the only marketing speak you'll hear from me, but Verizon was the first to launch a 5G network, and we haven't looked back ever since. And so we are constantly bringing new cities online with the millimeter wave or the ultra wideband version of 5G, which is that super fast, like you see here, showing you how long it takes to download a movie at those speeds reaching between 2 and 4 gigabits per second. Right now, you can only get about 40 to 50 to 60 megabits per second, unless you're in a dense urban area, and then maybe you can hit 100 megabits a second. But 5G really does promise to create a whole new slew of opportunities, which is not similar to what you're looking at on this screen right here. This screen is really good because it's a good measure of things that people have done across 3G, 4G, and 5G, and that is downloading a movie. We all remember the LimeWire days of trying to download a movie on a really, really, really slow connection. If you ever downloaded movies or music using LimeWire and Napster, definitely don't put it in the chat because then you're implicating yourself. But I know that we all used to do it, and it used to be super frustrating to like wait overnight for something to download, only to realize that you downloaded the wrong thing or it was a poor quality or something like that. But 5G is going to do much more than just give us the opportunity to download films. It's going to give us all of these different things that we call currencies, all these different capabilities, things like high throughput, low latency, the ability for us to really take connectivity and make it mobile in ways that we haven't even thought of yet. Now, when I say that we haven't thought of yet, I do mean us as a company, but also us as a society. And that's really where you come in. And we're going to talk about that here in just a second. 5G is ushering in what we're calling, not just us, but pretty much everybody is calling this thing the fourth industrial revolution or industry 4.0. It's this idea of this merging of the physical and the digital. Some people like to call it phygital. I hate that term. I think it sounds very, very silly. And it reminds me, I don't even know what it reminds me of. It just sounds funky. I don't like it. But we really are seeing how physical and digital spaces are merging, especially when we start talking about autonomous vehicles, not necessarily cars, but autonomous guided types of vehicles like forklifts or robots, or even drones and things like that that are able to move across all different elements of land, sea, and air. And as these begin to really come online and we really start to take advantage of them, we'll start seeing how we can start mixing those with things like mixed reality, augmented reality, virtual reality, and things like that. All in all, creating this explosion of new experience and use cases across both consumer, which you see there on the left, as well as business and industry, like you see there on the right. Pretty much no industry or technology is going to be untouched by 5G. It's going to really revolutionize pretty much everything you can think of, much in the same way that 4G did, especially for consumers when as it's been the past year, reaching full maturity. And so one of the things that's really going to help that along, and one of the things I want to make sure that we talk about, just so you have an understanding of the types of industries that's going to impact and really shake up, is the idea of cloud. We all know that the stuff that you see on your phone right now, especially things like your Instagram photos or something that you watch on Netflix, those aren't located on your phone. We all know that. They're located in the cloud. The application is making a call for information that's located on a server that could be thousands of miles away. It's asking for that information. It has to leave the network and go out into the open internet to get that information. And then you subject yourself to things like slowdowns, latency, and even sometimes security risks, right? And we all know that that's something that we have to deal with. Edge computing, or MEC, mobile or multi-access edge computing, solves a lot of those issues. It allows us to embed computing within the network itself, because the network is now fast enough to move that information back and forth. Fully computed information can sometimes take a very long time to move, which is why a lot of the things that are delivered to your device are compressed. And the onus is on your device to crunch those numbers, run those compute cycles, decompress that information, and then show it to you. And all of this takes time. And when we're talking about things like autonomous vehicles that are traveling at 90 miles an hour next to other autonomous vehicles, time is something that we really don't have. We need to make sure that that latency is darn near zero. And we do that by embedding compute capabilities within the network itself. And we can create compute, graphic rendering, as well as content caching, dynamic content caching, without ever having to leave the network, which means for the very first time, you and other businesses are able to create applications that live and reside in the network and don't ever require your users to go into the open internet. This has huge implications for speed of service, quality of service, as well as security and risk, right? Because if a signal never has to leave the network, if it never has to enter the open internet, then its risk assessment is much, much lower. And this is something that we're working on right now. We've moved this capability into several customers, large customers, people who are building ships in places like Newport News, as well as Southampton in England, factories like Corning, and we're just getting started. We're going to keep working with these large-scale customers to create edge computing capabilities within their work streams. In addition, edge computing is available for customers. If you or your businesses are working on cloud, if you're using cloud in your business, you can start using edge right now. If you go ahead and Google Verizon and wavelength, you'll get something around 5G Edge, which is the product that we're calling it. And you and your team can start building on wavelength as we speak right now. And my team also runs many workshops that can teach you how to get started doing that. And so I'll make sure that you have that information so that you can start accessing that right away. Bringing it all together, like I said, 5G is going to really impact all of these technologies with the ultimate goal of what we hope is bettering society. We want to make sure that organizations and people, especially those that might have limited access or limited abilities, are able to do the things they need to do to create independence and efficiency across the board. And that really is what my group is committed to. My group is 5G Labs. We have 6 of them around the world. Most of them are in America. We have 1 in London, if that qualifies as around the world. But we're continuing to grow and expand our capabilities and what we're working on. But we create opportunities for academia, for startups, enterprises, to create new use cases and new ways that 5G can be used, combined with edge computing, with the goal of creating new outcomes that are both inspiring and exploring the capabilities of the technology, and ultimately stuff that we can implement together. And so we've done this in a couple of different ways through large-scale partnerships like you see here. A couple of these I've mentioned already, and we continue to explore how 5G and edge computing are able to work with these organizations, sometimes a co-creation together, sometimes activating the ecosystem and bringing startups and small businesses in to see how they can begin innovating on top of our collective technology stacks. And that gets me to this right here. My team specifically has run these challenge programs where we've tackled tackled industry areas like first responders, like robotics, like mobile gaming, as well as education technology. And we've really created some really interesting use cases that take advantage of 5G that we've been able to showcase in demo. And you can see here some of the organizations that have really been able to take advantage of those programs. Some of them have involved funding, some of them have involved access to 5G, some of them have involved access to advisory from Verizon and our partners, and some of them have involved combinations of all of those things. We've used some of these outputs to create these signature experiences where we've showcased what 5G can do. Places like Super Bowl, places like the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade in New York City, places like the Academy Awards. I know there's a lot on this slide. I'll make sure that you get a copy of it. But we've been hard at work, not only building what 5G can do with our partners, but then showcasing it so people can use that to get inspired. In addition to that, we also work directly with organizations like Dignitas, which is an esports team that we have. We've given them a full-time training facility in our Los Angeles lab so we can explore the way that 5G is impacting esports. And then since the pandemic, we've been exploring these hybrid experiences, starting off with things like our virtual event programming on a wide variety of topics, exploring how connectivity is going to impact these topics for the betterment or for the impact of society. You can see there in the top left that inspiring, handsome-looking fellow as I'm working with a few other folks from industry who are having a really amazing conversation, in this case about, I think this was robotics. And it was actually really, really interesting. We have a repository of all of our talks, all of our events. There's dozens of them at verizon5glabs.com. If you go to the events tab at the top, you'll be able to see pretty much every talk that we've ever done. If you are really, really masochistic, you can select the ones that I've been part of, and you can listen to me drone on and on and on and on for hours. Good luck with that. We also are working currently with university students from a wide variety of backgrounds, including HBCUs and HSIs, to create new innovations around connectivity in partnership with the Clinton Global Initiative and Clinton and their university arm. That's currently ongoing, and we're really excited to see what those student teams were able to come up with here at the end of their accelerator. And then this was mentioned a little bit ago, our Forward for Good Accelerator, which is an ongoing initiative. We have cohorts every single year that are focusing on social impact initiatives. Right now, we're looking at ways that connectivity-driven technologies can impact climate justice and climate equity. And our next topic will be announced very soon, but it will be around something that's very near and dear to my heart, so I'm really excited about it. If you want to get involved in any of those initiatives, be sure to go to this address, verizonforwardforgood.com, and let them know that you heard a talk that I gave, and you'd like to know more. That's pretty much it. That's all that I got. There are lots of ways that you can get involved. We are always looking for people to be expert speakers on a lot of our virtual events. If there is a topic area that is important to you, that you think would make for a really good conversation vis-a-vis emerging technology and advanced connectivity, I would love to hear from you. And if you have ideas for how your types of technology or the stuff that you are working on is going to be impacted by 5G, then definitely let me know. I don't recommend contacting me to have a conversation about, hey, how can 5G help me? I need you to do a little bit of research first. Do a little bit of research, take a look at a lot of the things that I've mentioned here, come up with some really interesting ideas about what 5G can do and what advanced connectivity is going to mean for your business and your industry, and then let's have a conversation about that. So real excited to continue talking with you. Happy to be here. Thank you so much to OhioX for having us here, and thank you to the team here at Verizon for being here with me. I know I learn a lot every time I hear everyone talk. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Joshua. Really, and I know at the top of the hour, but hopefully maybe some folks can stick around and answer a few questions. But we know people have things to head to. So anyone can hop off when they can, but I commit to sticking around. And Don, I see your hand is up if you want to unmute yourself and feel free to hop in with a question.
Great. Hey, and thanks again to the
2 years
Verizon
ago?
team. Love the energy you guys are bringing to the conversation. I'm curious what specifically robots, drones, what gaps you're seeing in the portfolio and what kind of companies maybe Verizon's not seeing apply to the venture fund?
Yeah, so so robotics and drone is actually kind of a new area of kind of focus for us. And I believe we just we just announced like a new business unit, like kind of focused on like robotics as well. So I think we're still like evaluating exactly like where we want to like just invest as far as like robotics and drones. But we've been looking at like drones that are flying into, let's say, like dangerous areas where you need high level of connectivity, and maybe there's computer vision as well to be able to inspect certain areas. If it's like an area like Miami or something like that, to be able to just go into those dangerous areas outside of people going in there. Or if you think about delivery, how do you deliver packages from a retailer to a consumer? Exactly where are you dropping it off? What about robots that enter your home and put it in your refrigerator or cabinet? So we're just thinking about all those different types of things. There's no particular area or specific area that we're looking at, but we're entertaining all those kind of interesting use cases as long as there's that strong connectivity kind of piece.
Absolutely. And just one quick follow-up question. Maybe you said this at the beginning, Terry. Typical size of those companies? Do you guys have a threshold? Too small, too big?
Well, I would say we're seed stage and Series A primarily. So that means you kind of have some product, maybe you have a few customers, and you're really just kind of looking to grow at that stage. But we're not looking at this company needs to have this amount of ARR or But I will say there are some companies that will look at and will say that might be too large. So if you're coming to us and you're raising a Series A at a, say, $300 million valuation, for us, if we're looking to put in $1 to $5 million, that doesn't give us like a decent, ownership in the company. So I would just say think of it kind of that way.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, sure.
Any other questions from the group? Just feel free to pop your Zoom hand up, and we can get you included. Dana, did you have one at the beginning, I believe?
Yeah, my question, and thanks to everybody again. Terry, I think you were talking about some use cases specific to 5G, and then you said there were some other opportunistic use cases. I just want to know if that was posted. Some of those examples of those were posted anywhere for us to be able to go and see like what other people have done, and maybe it will spark some ideas.
Yeah, just our Verizon Ventures. If you just like Google search that'll take you to our homepage for our ventures team. And we have listed some of our areas of interest in which we're looking for, but it's going to align with a lot of things that was mentioned on kind of Josh's slide as well. And there's going to be many things that we haven't thought about yet. It's just think about things that just like a lot of compute power needed, like anything that's like real time type of thing. Those are, I know people bring up this kind of scenario many times, but it's like we had no idea with the invention of like 4G that Uber would exist. So it's like very similar with 5G. We have no idea what's the next big thing that this is going to create. But I would start at our website and many things that Josh listed on his slide as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Any other questions or comments or thoughts for our speakers today?
I have time, so if it runs over another 7 minutes for questions, I'm fine with that at least. So I feel like you kind of have to jump off if you have questions.
Chris, just a question here. Can you provide us contact information by any chance of Terry and Tiffany and some of the others that spoke today?
Yeah, and I think this is Neil. I can only hear a voice. Is that Neil?
Yeah, that's me.
Hey, Neil, how's it going? Yeah, happy to. And Jessica, that's, as I was kind of mentioning before, maybe we can put together a recap of the contact, the websites, any of the resources, Joshua, your deck, and we can get it out to everyone.
Hey, Jessica, good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. And yeah, I've been making a little list over here while everybody's been presenting. So we'll get that together for everyone.
Any other questions? And sorry, Joshua, not others. So Joshua, Terry, Tiffany from Jessica. Robert, thanks for your comment, and I agree. The 5G explanation was great. The one graphic particular showing the 3, 4, and 5, the flight to Sydney, second one I think uploading like a movie or something like that. That was really good, because I think sometimes these emerging technologies can take on all the buzzwords that people love to use, but that's that real world example that I think any of us can wrap our heads around. But any questions, comments, thoughts before we wrap up? And if not, Jessica, I'd love if you want to provide any final comments or thoughts as the person who made this all happen. So do we have maybe another hand up? Dale, is that you?
Yeah, it's me over here. I don't know where I am on your Hollywood squares, but thank you, Chris. And really my interest is to Terry, and hello, Terry. I do have a LinkedIn request to you, but I failed in providing enough information to you to entice you to accept it. So thought I would say hi in person and say, okay, over to you, sir, to connect. I have a specific interest with a specific Ohio-based company, and I'd love to have a conversation with you. And my question really is, would you be a good point of contact to help when it comes to matchmaking, not only the ventures organization, but business units within Verizon, where my client in particular has an application that would benefit Verizon, I believe, as a company, and extremely scalable, but needs funding to, it's sort of like the 800-pound gorilla, right? Dancing with 800-pound gorilla. Verizon is so huge that matchmaking internally to Verizon and then coming along as a venture partner would be that 1-2 punch, I think, that would win the day for that client. So I'm just opening that up to you to see if you would be the right person to start in that regard.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Dale. And now I wrote your name down, so now I'll definitely add you and respond to your request for sure. So it's good that you asked the question. Yes, actually, most of the time we're playing matchmaker. We're only investing in a small percentage of companies, but we do a lot of that, just the matchmaking. We might introduce to someone within the 5G labs, like, hey, this would probably be a good place to start. We could introduce you to someone within the business unit. I think many times we take like an initial call just to understand the company, because we have, I guess, pretty good knowledge about the strategies of each of our business units. So we can kind of, we'll do a lot of the filtering as well too, to say, I think we're working with someone already in this space, or you might be a little bit too early, at least on a commercial partnership side, but this is 5G relevant, so maybe there's something to do with the labs team. So absolutely, I think, having that initial call where we just go through the company, the deck, what your ask is, and then I can figure out from there what's the next step.
Okay, great. And this company is poised for a Series A with positive revenue and profitability. Just it's a scalability issue, and looking at Verizon and the partnership. So we'll be glad to put whatever information together that you need, and I'll send an LinkedIn message to you, and I'll attach at least the basics with my email address so you can get a hold of me. So Chris, thank you. And Terry, thank you for the answer to that question. Appreciate it. Appreciate the presentation All of the
Yeah.
presentations have been very informative today.
Absolutely.
Well, great. Well, thank you, Terry. Dale, thank you for the question. And Jessica, we'll kick it over to you.
Yeah, I just thank you so much to my colleagues. I feel so proud to be such a part of a great company that has such great V-teamers, Josh, Tiffany, and Terry. And for all of you, I lead our community engagement efforts here in Ohio, primarily for Northern Ohio and Cincinnati. My colleague, Krista, if you're in the Columbus or Dayton area, I can connect you to Krista Beislein as well. If you need services or want to know more about our philanthropy or corporate social responsibility efforts, feel free to reach out to me. And we're here. Ohio is really important to us as a company, and anything we can do to help you guys make those connections or to help you with our services and our connectivity, we are here. So thanks so much again to Chris and OhioX, my colleagues, and thanks to everybody who joined us. I hope you have a great afternoon.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.